The sky bleeds red at dawn, its fire spilling across the savanna like a warning. Shadows rise from the grass figures, lean and scarred, moving with the tension of hunters who know they are also prey. 6.7 million years ago, survival was never solitary. It was bound to the band to the rhythm of shared footsteps and the sharpened stone clutched in hand. But what happens when two bands driven by hunger and desperation converge on the same hunting ground? What ancient sparks of conflict mirror the battlefields of today? And how did those first confrontations shape the story of human war? A band emerges from the tree line, their bodies painted in mud, their breaths fogging in the cold morning air. They move low, almost like predators themselves, eyes locked on a herd of antelope grazing in the open plain. Hunger sharpens their focus, narrows their world to the promise of meat and marrow. A silent hand signal passes from the leader, a figure with broad shoulders and scars etched across his chest. But before the attack can begin, another presence shifts the air. From the opposite ridge, figures appear. Different faces, different markings. Another band leaner, but no less fierce, stepping with the same hunger burning in their eyes. The herd senses the tension ears, twitching muscles tensing for flight. Both groups freeze, not because of the animals, but because of each other. The prize is no longer the herd. It is dominance, survival, and the right to exist in this contested ground. The two bands surge forward. Bodies collide with bone-shattering force, screams swallowed by the savanna wind. Stones crash against skulls, spears thrust into flesh fists, hammer like storms. There is no strategy, no formation, only chaos rage and the primal will to outlast. Dust clouds the air, blood spatters on the dry grass. The earth drinks from the wounds of the living. In the heat of the clash, one figure rises above the melee. The leader, scarred and broad-shouldered, locks eyes with the rival's champion. Time slows, silence stretches, and then they collide like beasts. A swing of a stone axe narrowly misses the counter-strike, lands with a crack. Both stumble, both bleed, but neither falters. Around them, the battle rages, each strike echoing a truth that will follow humanity forever. That conflict is not only about survival, it is about power, identity, and memory. Far away in time, the echoes of these clashes ripple through history. From sharpened stone to sharpened steel, from rival bands on the savanna to rival nations across continents, the story repeats. The dust of the ancient fight settles into the trenches of modern warfare, the roar of the clash reborn in cannons, bombs, and drones. But the essence remains unchanged: groups locked in struggle for land, for resources, for the right to survive and define the future. The camera lingers on the battlefield of 6.7 million years ago, the fallen lying still as vultures circle above. The victors, bloodied but unbroken, raise their weapons to the sky in a gesture that is both triumph and warning. For in every battle won lies the seed of the next war, and humanity's greatest inheritance may not be peace, but the eternal clash between rivals. Would survival have been possible without conflict? Or was conflict the forge in which humanity's destiny was shaped? The survivors of the clash limp back toward their camp, dragging the wounded and carrying the weight of what has just been lost. The savanna is silent again, except for the distant cries of scavengers circling above the fallen. Among the victors' faces are hardened eyes, distant. Triumph is fleeting, for every life claimed in battle leaves. Behind hunger, still unsatisfied, dangers, still unrelenting. Yet something has shifted, an unspoken memory, carved into the minds of all who lived through the chaos. They now know the strength of their enemies, and more importantly, the cost of their own survival. At the heart of the camp, The fire flickers low, its smoke rising in thin ribbons into the twilight. Children cling to their mothers, sensing the tension in the air. Elders trace lines in the dirt marking the story of the battle with gestures and symbols. Spears are leaned against stones, their tips stained red, reminders of a day when prey was forgotten and rivals became the only quarry. Around the flames, silence reigns heavy with both grief and pride. In these moments, something larger than instinct begins to emerge, the shaping of memory of shared identity, of a story that binds the group together not only through blood, but through sacrifice. The night deepens, and the victorious band remains vigilant. Every shadow is suspect. Every sound from the grass could herald the return of rivals, seeking revenge. The leader sits apart, his body scarred and aching, his eyes reflecting both firelight and doubt. He knows that tomorrow will bring no peace, only another test, another struggle. The survival of his people depends not just on brute strength, but on the ability to anticipate, to prepare, to adapt. In his silence, the earliest seed of strategy takes root, a precursor to the battle plans and war councils that will shape future centuries. Time fractures, and the scene shifts to a modern battlefield. Soldiers crouch behind barricades of concrete and steel, their eyes scanning through scopes, their bodies armored with technology. Radios crackle with commands, drones circle high above the hum of machines, replacing the cries of vultures. Yet the essence is unchanged. Just as the bands on the savanna clashed for control of territory and resources, nations now clash for oil fields, trade routes, and power. The tools have evolved, but the primal instincts, the fear, the aggression, the desperate need to secure tomorrow remain carved into the human condition. Back in the ancient night, the victors finally collapse into uneasy sleep. Dreams come harsh and jagged visions of faces contorted in battle of blood on the grass of rivals who might one day return. The savanna does not allow forgetting. Dawn will demand new hunts, new confrontations, and the endless rhythm of survival. Yet in those restless dreams, humanity takes another step toward the future, toward a world where memory becomes story. Story becomes culture, and culture carries the lessons of survival into ages yet to come. The morning sun rises pale and cold, spilling light over the savanna, as if trying to wash away the blood of the night before. But no light can erase the scars left on the earth and on the people. The band awakens in silence, the weight of memory heavy in their eyes. The younger ones glance nervously at the horizon, expecting shapes to emerge again, rival figures ready to strike. The elders sit still, watching the smoke drift upward from the dying fire, knowing that survival is not simply about strength, it is about the lessons carved into the soul by every confrontation. The hunters step forward once more, their bodies stiff from wounds, their stomachs still empty. Hunger forces movement, no matter the cost. Spears are repaired. Stones, reshaped wounds, bound with fibers stripped from plants. As they march, their formation is tighter than before, their eyes sweeping in unison, their breaths aligned. Conflict has forced them to change. Instinct is no longer enough. They begin to act as one, not merely as individuals bound by chance, but as a group forged by necessity. Unity born from violence is the earliest strategy of survival. As they move across the plains, the air grows tense once again. Tracks in the dust, fresh, deep, unmistakable, announce the presence of rivals. The hunters halt, eyes wide, muscles coiled. The choice is cruel: follow the herd and risk ambush, or abandon the chase and starve. In this moment, the leader raises a hand, not in command, but in something greater, an attempt to guide, to control, fear, to create order where chaos rules. This gesture is more than instinct. It is the earliest seed of leadership of command, of a system where one vision binds many. The tension carries across time to the trenches of the First World War. Men sit in mud rifles, clenched the silence, before the whistle stretching into eternity. The fear is the same, the hunger for survival just as sharp, but the battlefield has grown wider, the weapons deadlier. What began as rival bands clashing on the savanna has become nations mobilizing millions. Yet at its core, it is still the same rhythm, the need to strike first, to hold ground, to ensure tomorrow. The same silence before violence, the same desperate gamble between life and death. Back in prehistory, the rival band emerges once more from the grass, leaner than before, eyes burning with vengeance. The clash is inevitable, yet this time the victors from the day before are different. They do not scatter in confusion. They close ranks, shields of bark, lifted spears, angled bodies moving as one. They are not yet an army, but they are no longer only a mob. They are something in between, the ancestors of all future formations. The rivals charge, and the earth shakes with the impact. Dust clouds the sky, screams echo across the plains, and once again, survival is written in blood. When the dust settles, the savanna is littered with bodies, the grass trampled into mud. The victors stand fewer in number, but stronger in unity. They howl into the sky, their voices carried on the wind, like the earliest war songs of humanity. From this clash emerges something greater than survival, the birth of memory, ritual, and meaning. They will return to their camp. They will tell the story, and through story, they will teach the next generation how to fight, how to endure, how to remember. In the embers of conflict, humanity begins to glimpse the terrible inheritance of war, that from struggle comes strength, but also the endless cycle of rivalry that has never truly ceased.